It was a year ago that the Taliban triumphantly regained control of Kabul after sweeping through Afghanistan, taking towns, cities and provinces in just days. Emboldened by the withdrawal of US and other international forces, the Taliban already controlled large parts of the country, but their advance accelerated from early August. Their progress took many by surprise and prompted thousands of Afghans to flee. Our correspondent Sikandar Kamani reported extensively from across Afghanistan before and since the takeover. He's in the southern city of Kandahar, a heartland of the Taliban, and has this assessment of how people there are reacting to today's anniversary.
The experience of this past year really very different for very different people. So if you were, for example, someone who was politically active, who opposed the Taliban, you now no longer feel free to publicly criticize them. Certainly you run the risk of arrest, torture or death. If you were a teenage girl who was in school in most of the country, you're no longer in school. If, however, you were a villager living along a rural front line, and if in your village people were already abiding by the ultra-conservative values of the Taliban, well then, actually, some people like that feel that life is now better under the Taliban than it was when the war was still continuing, because, for example, they can do things as simple as go out to their fields without fear of being caught in the crossfire of a gun battle. Now, I'm here in Kandahar, and the Taliban's government is based formally in Kabul. That's where the Prime Minister, the cabinet, all is. But it's here in Kandahar that the supreme leader is living. He's a reclusive figure. He's never been filmed. There's only one photograph of him that's verified that really exists. But he's been responsible, it seems, for the increasingly hardline stance adopted by the Taliban over the course of the year, including the decision back in March to keep most girls' secondary schools closed, a decision which was greeted really by a national outpouring of grief. I've been speaking to the Deputy Governor of Kandahar, and I began by asking him what, in his view, the Taliban's biggest achievement of the past 12 months had been.
It is a matter of pride for the Afghan nation that their wishes has been fulfilled, and the invasion of the infidels, led by the Americans in NATO, has been ended. After this, complete security has been brought to the whole country.
Some people say it's ironic for you to be claiming to have brought security to Afghanistan when you were the ones who were responsible for the insecurity, with the fighting, with the suicide bombing.
That is an unfair judgment. The reality is, under the leadership of America in NATO, many countries invaded Afghanistan.
I've seen a Taliban statement from the last month saying that 3 people were flogged for fornication. Many people inside and outside Afghanistan would be deeply uncomfortable, deeply concerned by rules and punishments like this.
This is our nation, our people, our religion, culture and traditions. If the rest of the world directs us on this issue or criticizes us, then this will be an unfair judgment.
Well, the Deputy Governor of Kandahar, they're really touching upon the increasingly hard stance of the Taliban that they've been adopting. I think if you look at the trajectory that they've taken over the past year, it seems that they're only getting more and more hardline. So many Afghans are wondering where we'll be in another year's time from now. What does unite Afghans is deep concern at the country's dire economic and humanitarian crisis, though.
That was Sikandar Kamani in Kandahar. Well, one of the most significant changes the Taliban made is that girls are barred from secondary schools in most parts of Afghanistan. The Taliban have told the BBC that some religious leaders are opposed to the idea of girls going to school, but they are trying to find a solution. Our international correspondent Lise Doucette has been reporting from Afghanistan for decades. She was there last August when the Taliban came back to power, and she's there now. She sent this report.
This is a room full of men with traditional hats, and the women are sitting here in the corner. Do you want the girls to go to school?
Oh, definitely. Girls should go to school and study. We are illiterate now. If there was an educational center, I would study myself. I would become a doctor. Being a doctor would be great in my old age.
She talked about wanting to be a doctor, and all the men, there was a giggle that went around the room. Chancellor Lassie, how old are you?
I'm 50 years old.
Is opening the high schools for girls important? They're closed now.
Of course it is. I have a daughter. She is in grade 12, but she cannot continue her studies because of the closure of the schools. She is stuck at home now. If our girls cannot study, they will be the same as we are, illiterate women. Ask the men. Everyone should be happy. We are like prisoners in our homes. A woman has no right to leave the home even outside of her home.
This is, of course, it's a source of laughter here, but it's also a very serious issue. Do you think Afghanistan is changing? It has to change. It's a very conservative country, but slowly to give women more rights and freedoms?
Definitely Afghanistan needs to change. The world has changed. As an example, look at Saudi Arabia, which is the base of Islam. It has changed. So our country also needs to change as well. There is only one Islam, no difference.
We see it on TVs and phones that the whole world, Islamic countries, including neighboring countries such as Pakistan, India, and Iran, are all developed. Afghanistan must also develop.
I have a question. Why a woman can become as prime minister or a member of parliament in Pakistan but not Afghanistan?
On the streets, life in this remote province of Afghanistan looks much the same. Women have always covered up with head-to-toe shawls. I'm told that Taliban patrols react harshly if any woman seems to be out of line. Some of the educated Talibs seem more moderate. So I sat down with an educated woman here to find out what life is like for her now. You're wearing a long black, they call it chaduri namaz. It's a bit black with a bit of colour from head to toe. Did you wear that before the Taliban came to power?
Yes, we wore this in the past, but now we have to cover our face, and I'm not comfortable with this.
And if you don't cover it?
I'm afraid because and 2 weeks ago they said dear soldiers, when you see a woman without covering her face, you can hit her.
Hit her?
Yes.
That happens?
Yes.
We met some educated members of the Taliban provincial government, and they told us they want to open the schools for girls. They want women to have opportunities. Are there some Taliban who do want to see change?
I can't believe them. They will never change. They don't want girls to go to school. They don't want women to go out of the house. In their idea, the woman should be in the house, should clean house, should cook, and take care of their children.
Do you see any hope? You're an educated woman.
I'm not hopeful of our future, our woman's future in Afghanistan. I'm not hopeful. I can't believe Taliban. And I'm very worried about my future and also my children's future.
That report by Lee.